Well, one specific Christmas, I can't remember. I was 5 or 6 or 7 years old, and we wore knee socks, brown knee socks, and we wore knickers. The pants were called knickers, and they came down just below your knees, and they were tight there, elastic. And we'd hang those socks up for Christmas Eve, and we didn't have a fireplace, so we laid them on the piano bench in the living room. And Christmas morning.
Is that the piano that's at Ann's restaurant now?
Yeah, same piano that's at Ann's restaurant in New Richmond, Wisconsin. That's another whole story. I got into it with your dad about that piano when your sister gave it away. Anyway, we went down Christmas morning, and Walt and Paul's sock were full of candy, and I remember popcorn balls and orange, maybe a tangerine. And my stocking looked empty. But there was something in it, and I dumped it out, and all there was in my stocking was an onion.
An onion?
I had been a bad boy.
Oh.
And I'm looking at Paul, your dad's stuff, and your Uncle Paul's stuff. I'm looking at my onion, I'm sitting there bawling like a baby. And then Grandma comes over and said, Yakim, or Jimmy, did you learn anything? I said, Ma, I'll be a better boy. And then she gave me the stuff, the same thing Paul Walt got. But I learned something, Billy. I learned from then on, the good Lord isn't kidding that you won't get nothing if you're not good. So, anyway, we had a lamp, a floor lamp, that had a little light at the bottom. And I remember Mom and Pa would be sleeping on Christmas morning, and us three would be there with that little light on the floor lamp, looking at all of it, at the stuff. And we always never opened presents Christmas Eve, always in the morning. And
did you have a tree?
Oh yes. Oh, the Christmas tree is another story. You know, we were kind of a poor family, and we had Christmas trees in every classroom at Columbia School, and we decorated those trees. A lot of times we decorated them with popcorn that we strung with a needle and thread. Anyway, we got out of school like a week before Christmas, and the teacher in one of our, either Walt, Paul, or me, would bring a tree home, because the teacher knew we were a poor family, and and if your kids were good, they gave you a tree. And we hauled the tree home and nailed feet on it and stood it up and decorated it. And had those decorations for years and years and years, and they're probably somewhere in the family now for all I know. But anyway, Christmas was a wonderful time. We didn't go to church much until us boys found a Sunday school, because of the argument Pa had with the priest at the Ukrainian Catholic Church.
Yeah, can you talk about when he came to
the priest?
Talk about building a school?
Yeah. Remember, I suppose I was 5 or 6 years old. But I remember the priest at that little church was a great big guy and spoke pretty poor English. And he had a pet lamb, and he lived in the parsonage, or the priest's house, whatever you'd call it back then, was across the street from the kitty corner from the church, and it was the other side of the little woods from our house. One night, the priest came over. There were 6 kids in our family, actually, even though Jenny, or Olga was the oldest, and then Jenny, and then Bill. Bill was still at home with us 3 kids, or in and out. But there were 6 children in the family, so the priest told my dad that you have 6 children, and we need to put a remodel at the church and maybe build a school, and we need money, and you have 6 children, so $50 per child, that's $300. And I can remember my dad getting very angry, and he told the priest, if I had $300, I would finish building my house. He kicked him out. And Bill, we never went back to that church. And we didn't go to church, but all of our friends, some were Catholic, but most of our kids went to Sunday school, our friends. And we asked Ma if we could go to Sunday school. She said, well, go ahead. And so your dad and Uncle Paul and I, well, your dad kind of leading the group, he was the oldest, we started shopping churches. And I remember we went to the Seventh-day Adventist church, we went to a Methodist church, went to a Baptist church, went to First Lutheran church, and then one of your dad's classmates was a kid named Jim Hasher, who ended up, by the way, being a Pan American airline pilot. Anyway, he said, why don't you come to Sunday school with me? It was St. Matthew's Lutheran Church up on 41st in Washington. So one Sunday we walked up there, and at that time it was a basement church. It was just a basement, no top to it at all. And Billy, they welcomed us like we were the lost sons of Jesus. I got to take a bit of water. And excuse me. It was quite an experience. So what happened is us 3 boys became Missouri Lutherans. We were confirmed in the Lutheran church. Your dad and I sang in the choir. And then Korean War came along, and your dad was in the World War II in the Army Air Corps. And then Uncle Paul and I were in during the Korean War, and Uncle Paul was a very talented trumpet player. He ended up in the 43rd Army Band at Fort Richardson, Alaska.
Wow.
And he was the camp bugler. And I ended up in the Minnesota National Guard in the 47th Military Police Company. And the company commander, we were organizing at the old armory in Minneapolis, getting ready to take a train for Camp Rucker, Alabama. And the company commander asked if anybody knew how to cook. And I raised my hand. I knew how to cook. Grandma taught us how to cook for 6 or 8 people when she was working. And he said, well, how do you know how to cook? Well, I told him how my mother had taught me how, and she said, yeah, well, that was for 6 or 8 people. This is 300. I said, Captain, I know how to multiply. And so I ended up being cook and then an acting mess sergeant in the Army. And anyway, back to Grandpa Whitecor and Grandma. You knew the story about Grandma and a banana.
Yeah.
She was working on her Uncle Simeon and Uncle Sam's farm west of Winnipeg, tending cows, keeping them out of the corn, and they packed her a lunch. And she's out in the field, opened up her lunch, and there was a banana in it. She had never seen a banana before in her life. And she thought it was poison, and she buried it in the field. And later on found out it was a banana, and it was good to eat. And but your Grandma Whitecor was 19 when she arrived in Canada. Her father had saved money, had been had made 3 trips to Canada in 1900, 1905, 1910, 1915. And when he came back to Ukraine in 1915, he decided he was going to move his whole family to Canada and get out of Ukraine. And his wife, who grew up an orphan, just said,
Do you remember what her name was?
no. Somewhere I'll pull it out of my memory, but
Okay.
she said, "Miboichi, I'm afraid," and so she didn't want to leave Ukraine because that's the only home she ever knew. And then the First World War came along, and they couldn't leave. Well, after the war, Grandpa had saved enough Canadian and some American money to buy a ticket to Canada for his oldest daughter. Well, we called her Santa Celia, but it was Xenia. And she got to Canada and was working on Uncle Sam's farm, and she was told when she left home that she would save her money and send it back for her siblings. Well, when she married my father, part of the deal was he agreed to save money and send it for Palaska and Pauline, and he did that. And she got to Canada and was working as a maid or something, and she met her future husband,
Hillerich.
yeah, Alesich. His name was Andrew Lerchik, and he was a Slovenian, and he worked in a gold mine in Timmins, Ontario, and worked in the assay department of that mine. Found out years later that every day, sometime he would rub gold dust in his hair on his chest, and he'd get home and take a shower and save that gold. And over 20 years, he stole enough gold to buy a small hotel, bar, and restaurant in Timmins. And I remember then he did not agree to send money back, and so nobody else all got out. And that's why my mother, your grandma, always referred to Andy Lerchik as that cheap Slovenian. And so none of her brothers and sisters got out of Ukraine until, well, never did. And World War II came along. In 1928, Stalin closed the borders and nobody came out. The last person to leave Chalets in 1928 was our friend Harry Zachke, who lived in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan.